Paul writes to the Colossians, whatever you do, do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It's the Lord Christ whom you serve. We'll talk tech with Syscon owner and president Catherine Wendt about leading with faith in the world of work on this episode of Priming Pillars. Welcome to Priming Pillars, a Pillars on Purpose production, interviewing bold Christian leaders who both live faith on offense and pass hard-won wisdom across generations. I'm Paul Weber, founder of Pillars on Purpose, and it's a joy today to spend this time with longtime friend Catherine Wendt. Cathy, thank you so much for your time, and most importantly, thank you for passing your treasure on to next generations.
It is my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Always, always. Cathy, you have served and are serving in leadership in various spheres throughout your life. First, you're the eldest of 11 children, probably the most important leadership role ever. You've raised 4 of your own. You're the active owner and CEO of Syscon, a family-owned tech business serving the construction industry predominantly. You're an active musician, but more than that, you sang with the Chicago Symphony Chorus, and you served as the director of the Elmhurst German Men's Chorus. Ausgezeichnet. I want to hear more about that. You're also an author and a blogger and very involved within the industry in various associations, including C12, a wonderful Christian organization for business leaders. Cathy, have I missed anything, or could I possibly miss anything?
Well, at the moment, I am the director of the Upscale Singers, which is a group of adult singers who perform twice a year in the Scottsdale, actually, near Anthem area. And have a lot of fun. It's a great group of people, and we do some wonderful music.
Well, I can attest to that, having been blessed by sitting in the audience while you have conducted that. So I'm going to encourage everyone to go see the Upscale Singers if you can. So Cathy, all right, our topic today is walking the talk as a Christian CEO in tech. First thing on my mind is that I have to ask, I know it's the first thing on our audience's mind is, what lessons did you learn as the eldest of 11?
Quite a few. Most importantly, I really learned a work ethic. As the oldest of 11, my youngest sister is only 15 years younger than me, so many of us are only a year and a half away. So even when I was 5, there were 5 kids. So when we all had chicken pox, it was all hands on deck, and everybody help and keep the baby out of the way so the baby didn't catch the chicken pox. It was just a very different life, and I didn't know that other people's lives were different than ours. It was just how we ran things. Honestly, organization, the need to put other people in front of yourself, which is a dual-edged sword as you get older, and you have personal things you need to take care of too. But nonetheless, that kind of selfless, there are other people who need things. Be sure that you're being thoughtful of that. Definitely the work ethic, getting up early, getting things done. Actually, managing money was a really big deal. As you can imagine, that was always difficult. I did babysitting starting very young. I was so excited when I opened my first checking account and I brought my silver dollars and things. And I had this image that they had a little box that my name would be on and that was mine. So I was disappointed to learn I'd never see the silver dollars again. So managing money, really saving, making sure that it's something you really has value. Selfless. If there wasn't money to get everyone registered for school, I used my babysitting money to get kids registered for school. It was just the way it was done. Need a gallon of milk on the way home? My brother or I had to stop and pick that up on our way home from work. So it's just a very different lifestyle, but it really set a lot of routines that later served me very well.
It sure is. Amazing, amazing life lessons. I don't even want to try to do the math of 11, 15 and under. So we'll just save that for maybe a future episode here.
All that, yeah.
It is possible, I'm guessing. And no twins, right?
No twins, no.
Okay, never mind. I'm not even going to think that through. But, all right. I know as a Christian and as a CEO, team members might expect more grace, perhaps, than accountability. In business, how do you navigate outward faith and real or false expectations that come with that, and still drive for results?
That is a hard line because,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's not very Christian of you, or that's not very thoughtful of you, or that seems selfish of you. And some of
Yes.
that is setting some of those guidelines as you're hiring. We have
Mm-hmm.
core values we bring up at the time we hire. We have those same core values we bring up when we have follow-up conversations. We have what we call a trust accelerators, which is something we've all agreed and built together on how we communicate with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I can share some of those if you wish. I think the main thing, as these opportunities come up to have maybe the more difficult conversations or hold people accountable, is to be sure to bring it back to the things we've already agreed to do. We've already agreed these are our core values. We've already agreed this is how we're going to interact with each other. So it's not you did something wrong. It's this is how we agreed. This didn't happen this time. How can we address that? And I guess the other thing is, and I've shared this with people before, I am responsible for quite a few people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
for their family and financial commitments that they've made. And poor decisions on my part for one person, or what we're doing with one client, or one person who's not fitting in, jeopardizes my responsibility to a lot of other people as well.
Oh boy. Yes.
When I go to bed at night, it's not just about how are we going to cover things tomorrow or whatever. I've got people making family decisions, getting married, having a child, applying for a mortgage based on that we're going to be in business, making the money that we do, doing a good job, and continuing on to the future. If I allow one person to pull that down or risk a client or risk a relationship, I'm jeopardizing everybody.
Cathy, you said so much in just that 60 seconds that we want to take a little bit of time to unpack. You started with agreed upon values, and then from that values, you talked about sort of behavioral expectations that align with those values. Tell me about actually how you got to that process of agreement within your team to accept those values and then the behaviors that flows out, just real quickly.
Sure. We came up with the 6 core values that we've been using for a while. We evaluate them every year, but they have been the
Sure.
same for about 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and really, it came down to how do we want to behave? How do we want to be treated? Uh, Frankly, our clients, we want our clients
Yes.
to treat our people well too, so we want them to be behaving. And we had come up with them and things that we thought could be guidelines that we could be used as we make decisions, whether it's adding a product, hiring or not, releasing or not, accepting a
Mm-hmm.
client or not. Some clients, you don't want to say no to anyone, but they may not be a good fit. And it might be more frustration for the team than accepting them if we're not a good fit for that client. So we have talked these through. We've agreed upon them in our quarterly leadership traction meetings. Our leadership team reviews these 6. We make sure they're still relevant. And then we bring them up every state of the company. We bring them up in every annual review. And anytime we're talking about somebody who has not met the mark, we're bringing it back to one of these values or trust accelerators about why this behavior or this outcome was not okay.
Wow, that is so critical. I often found as a leader of an organization that I found myself to be the chief repeat officer. And basically, you're making my point here is that you have to communicate, repeat, 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 keep pointing to those values, the behaviors that come from those values. I just love that. That's gold right there. We can end the podcast right here, but we're not going to because you then swerved into something else that I wanted to take a little time on, and that is in what ways does following Jesus heighten that sense of responsibility? That kind of that weight that you feel as a leader in being a Christ representatives, and then as you take that into Syscon as the leader of your organization.
Well, it is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It really means I'm under more scrutiny on how I respond, how I behave, the decisions I make, and I'm very aware of that. Both for people who appreciate what I do, I want to reaffirm that. So when I need some grace, I'll have it coming. And for people who are going to be critically watching what I do or say, I want to be sure that I've got the right heart showing up every time and that
Yeah.
I'm not coming from a right or wrong type of thing, although some things do come down to this is the right way to do something and this is not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about them being right or wrong necessarily as much as this is how our company functions. This is how we're built. This is the values we have. This is what our clients' expectations are. That's not for everyone. And even if you're the best at what you do, this might not be the best environment for you to thrive in. And we'd like you to go find one that you could thrive in.
So, Cathy, what you're saying is you're not above your own values of the company? Come on.
No,
You're the leader.
we have a funny thing because I did co-found this with my husband, and we do have other family members who have worked in the business over the years and still do.
Right.
What we say is there's no Wendt rule. There's no Wendt rule.
Great.
There are not exceptions just because of what your last name is.
Well, you also touched on something else very important as well, is that when you display those values and the expectations that align with those values, they can also repel people that don't align with those values a lot easier than you having to do it if you didn't have them.
Yes, I would agree. If how I show up matches what I've said, and it's an interview or it's a prospect, it will be obvious in short order whether this is a good fit or not. It doesn't mean we did anything wrong or they did anything wrong. It means that this is not a good fit and they should find someone who is.
Okay, good. So then as you kept talking, you swerved into another topic, which is kind of a derivative even further, is this idea of accountability. Who do you see yourself accountable to?
Well, I think the heaviest weight is I do expect my Heavenly Father to be holding me accountable. And I know darn well what's going on in my own head, despite what I might say out loud. So I want to make sure my heart's in the right place. And I get mad just like other people, and I get disappointed like other people, and I feel hurt just like other people. So making sure that I'm grounded before I open my mouth or take any steps or a decision is a big deal. I'm also accountable to our leadership team. They're looking to me to help bring some guidance when we have difficult decisions or we have things that feel like they're on the border of something. Are they or are they not? Let's put it up against our core values. Let's take a look and see, is this outside or is this something that is definitely within? And how can we navigate it? How can we grow through it? That might be the question.
That's awesome. I want to drill just a little deeper on that. At SysCon, is everybody a Christ follower, or do you have folks that are not?
We have folks that are not. Absolutely. They're also pretty clear where I am, etc. In fact, I do have a short little story if you'd like me to share.
Please do.
Okay. Focus on the Family is having a 30-day prayer for our country campaign, and they sent out a different prayer for each of the 30 days in July. I forgot to mention to them there are 31 in July, but I got the idea. Anyway, I had not read all of them, but I sent them out to all of our team members and said, this is what I heard. This is what Focus on the Family is doing. If you'd be interested, I've attached the information about what they're suggesting we pray for each day through the month for our country and for our families. Just optional if you're interested.
Sure.
The next phone call was one of our team members to Chris, and he's our VP of Technology Solutions, in tears, because one of the prayers hit a really big nerve for her on some issues struggling with her daughter. And she was frustrated. And it really wasn't about what that was or what I had suggested as much as she's feeling frustrated and she's unsure what to do. And I got to imagine it is so hard as a mom to feel you don't have all the answers for your kids.
Yes.
So Chris kind of talked her off and said, well, do you think Cathy would have meant this in any way other than a suggestion? No. Do you think she would treat you or your daughter differently? No. So he kind of said, you don't have to do any of this. It's optional. And I hope you'll bring this to Cathy, which was the right thing for him to say.
Yes. Perfect. Well, the reason I asked the question is I think it's fantastic that you're operating a business and that we as Christians are engaging the entire culture. That's important for us to do that. And in that process, we're hiring and bringing on the best people to fit the role that we need done for the best of the business. So it was a question to go down the line of the values piece and how you deal with business decisions that might conflict with faith. and I'm guessing you're just bringing them back to values.
Yes, and I'm happy to say that over the years, those kinds of things that are really, this would be a conflict, have been few and
Mm-hmm.
far between, but they're often
Yes.
in times of crisis. So there's a lawsuit or someone's threatening one. The time of COVID, how do we behave? Where do we follow the rules and guidelines, and how do
Yes.
we treat our people? Do we keep them on staff? Um, how do we keep our commitments to our clients during that time? Those are the times where definitely going back to prayer, the values, making sure we're talking it through, and that we're being thoughtful. Those are the times of crisis. And honestly, times of crisis are the time when you least are going to think of, let's take this in prayer. So if it's your habit anyway, it's
Mm-hmm.
more likely you'll at least think about it at the time that it actually is coming up.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Cathy, I recall the words of one of my mentors in my ear. He used to say to me as I was younger and climbing the ladder, Paul, what do you need to know, do, or become to be ready for that next role? Looking back, Cathy, how do you see God preparing you for leadership in your life?
Well, first of all, giving me 10 brothers and sisters. I just didn't know it at the time.
We're back to that. Yes.
Yeah. But then later, I think some of the opportunities I had in music,
Hmm.
where even if it was just a guitar group that was playing in a church service or something, often I would be in the position of organizing or kind of leading those things. Then later getting married, children, starting the business, making those
Hmm.
decisions to make that investment and effort, um, learning how to hire and how to manage people and how to communicate with them. I've always been very task oriented, and it didn't take me very long to figure out that when I get on, I thought I was being super efficient. You've got a consulting call with me. Let's get right down to it. What's the problem? Let's get it solved. Turns out people would also like you to say, how's that? How is that thing going on at home that you mentioned last time? Or how was your
Hmm.
vacation? And they don't mind that that's going to take a few minutes of the time they booked with you. That actually helps them feel that transition into the time with you. I just thought they would see that as me wasting their time, and it didn't occur to me that they needed that too. So I've had all kinds of lessons like that. Uh,
Yes.
I
And
think
that
that,
that human connection, is a bridge that is just built for when you do hit those bumpy roads that every business does. And when you have that human connection, it just helps you both cross that bridge together, right?
yeah, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. I
Very
think some
cool.
other prep has just been some opportunities where Larry had some opportunities to do some other things different,
Uh
and
huh.
I did a new sounding board. Letting him pursue some of the programming initiatives that he wanted meant that I was going to be taking on some of the business things myself after doing this together for so many years. Finding groups to help me with that. And first thing I did was I did join C12, a Christian business group, and that
Yeah.
was very, very helpful to have some outside board members, if you want to think about it that way. And then the
Yeah.
second group was within my own industry where I had fellow IT companies, not in my backyard, so not my competitors, but peers. And that again was very helpful in helping build the leadership skills.
So, Cathy, I do notice just from knowing you and talking through these years that you do spend a lot of time focused sort of outside the business, writing, blogging, being visible in the industry and associations. Why do you see that as necessary for your role? Does it come easy for you, or do you sort of have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps to do it?
Oh, well, I think I think one of the reasons I do a lot of that is our focus has been education for our clients. Many in the
Hmm.
construction business, many of the office people are the uncle, the son, the niece, the nephew, the wife who said, "Hey, I'm going to start this business. I need you to keep the books. Or I'm going to start this business. I need you to help me with X or Y." They're not necessarily trained in that. And in order for them to make good decisions to use some of the things that we're recommending, they need some education with that. And they don't need just a sales pitch every time they hear something from you or receive something in the mail. So we've made a big focus about education and setting ourselves up as the subject matter expert when it comes to anything technology related to run a construction company. So to do
Yeah.
that, we need to be out there educating.
Yes, I appreciate your response because one of the things I'd like our pillars to understand, our ascending leaders to understand, is that when you are the leader, oftentimes you need to think and work on the business, external to the business, versus in the business day to day. You have to work on building and positioning the business in the mind of your target market. You need to build expertise. You need to know the business. You need to become known as an expert in the industry, and that's what I hear in your response is you're understanding that and you're positioning yourself that way, and that's a very important quality to pass down to next gens.
Yes, if you've got to be 24/7 and you do everything, you got a problem. First of all,
Yes.
what you have is a job, not a leadership position or a business. And
Mm.
people will always come to you and say, well, what do I do? What's the answer? What do I do? You can't move off of that because you've set yourself up as a go-to person. You want to educate them so they can make good decisions. They can be great at what they do, and they can disseminate what you've been teaching them in those guidelines. And that's just a different mindset than just, I'm going to tell people how I want things done. And if they have questions, they can ask me. I don't have hours in the day to take all the questions.
Oh my goodness. I hear your voice ringing in my ears when I was 25 years old. And you're saying to me, Paul, if someone can do that 80% as good as you can, let them do it. Don't you do it. And that is so true. And thank you for bringing that up.
And it's hard to do because we are
Yeah.
good at what we do and we can
Hmm.
probably be more efficient than someone else. But
Yes.
is that the best thing for us to be doing right now? We ask our business owners that all the time. Sure, you can set up your own computer. Is that really going to help you build that building? Is that really the expertise you're bringing to the company? Probably not.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, let's pivot to something else. And this is a kudos and a congratulations. Several years back, you and your team were recognized as a women business enterprise. Now, you're in construction technology. What challenges have you faced being in a male dominated industry as a women business enterprise?
This has always been true. And we have navigated this over the years, and it's
Uh-huh.
been a couple decades. So actually, the culture has changed in a lot of the construction companies over the years as well. So back in the day, the very beginning here, I only helped with accounting things. I never talked to the project managers, and I never talked to the estimators. They
Oh.
didn't. They weren't really open to those conversations with me, and that was okay. I
Mm-hmm.
had guys handle that. Later, when we were doing networking such, I helped educate our lead techs and I put them in front of the client because that information was taken better from the guys than from me. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
that, and I just needed to respect that if we wanted to get the job done well. More recently, that is less so as we've got another generation coming up that has seen that and can really appreciate the variety of people. And it's not a men or a woman thing. It's who's got the expertise and knows how to help me move this forward.
Cathy, before the show, I mentioned that we had a guest on a recent Priming Pillars podcast. He was a 40-year HR veteran and an author of a book called Biblical HR. And he discussed workplace conflict. I'm guessing that you've had no conflict ever in your workplace, so you can just pass by this question. But if you did have conflict, how would you manage it?
Well, it's interesting because as a family business,
Yeah.
absolutely there's conflict and it
Mm-hmm.
has no place in the workplace. And yet we're all,
Mm.
so if Larry and I disagreed on a particular effort that we were going to do or a product that we were going to start offering, we had forums where we could argue that out. Everyone was going to be heard, and those were lively but
Mm-hmm.
respectful. But once
Yes.
the decision was made, whoever's job it was to make it, you heard, everyone else heard their say, and now we got a decision. We get behind it to make it successful. There's nothing beyond that. That's hard to do, but it's the right way to go about it. Well, conflict with employees is even harder. So there's the family conflict, but the conflict with employees is even more difficult. Um,
Mm.
Everyone's got their own background, and they may have things going on in their life that are bubbling up and causing this. But we had two guys, strong D's in that disc profile, so very dominant personalities. I was actually at an event for a couple of days, and when I got back, I heard about this. They went chest to chest, shouting it out in the office. My controller at the time stepped in and said, "You gentlemen need to go cool off." It was a horrible position to put her in. They both apologized later, but we just had to sit down with them both and say, "Look, you're great at what you do. You cannot behave this way. You're both in a senior position here. Whether I'm here, whether Larry's here, it doesn't matter. You cannot behave this way." And they did both apologize. It's so difficult because things could be really horrible at home. We don't even know. They don't need to tell us, but it bubbles up into their interactions with people at work.
Sure, sure. Well, two things I'm hearing from you there is one is you are fostering an environment in your organization of what I call last 10%. Last 10% is giving people permission to say the last 10% of what's really on their mind and getting that out, because usually that's the best nuggets and the best things to create what I call healthy conflict in an organization. And two is with those two team members, sometimes they just have to work it out on their own, don't they?
Yes. I do think the two of them had to go have another follow-up conversation to work out whatever it was that happened.
Yes. You may have to provide an adult beverage or two, but they can sit down mano a mano and figure it out, right?
Agreed.
All right. Well, Cathy, these are pearls you're sharing for our next generation leaders. I'd love to explore your thoughts on team building further, leadership across generations, and especially how AI will take all of our jobs. Yet from what I understand, our nation's going to be prosperous anyway, and that no one will actually need to work. We will just send our AI-driven robots to do it for us. So, Cathy, can you stick with us for another episode?
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you.
Me too. What a blessing to share this podcast with our ascending leaders. I really appreciate Cathy's time. And thank you all, our audience, and especially those ascending leaders who are tuning in and telling their friends. If you are a Gen Z leader and intrigued by the idea of being a pillar for faith, a pillar in community, and a pillar of witness to our world, visit our website at pillarsonpurpose.com. That's pillarsonpurpose.com. And click on the Join Us tab. There you will find a way to be a part of the Pillars on Purpose community. And if you are an acclaimed Christian leader, like my dear friend Cathy, with wisdom and scars to share across generations, we have a place for you as well. So join us again at pillarsonpurpose.com, where we envision a world anew through the inspired few, like my friend Cathy Wendt, who reach the many to proclaim the one. Thanks for joining.